Hello guys, and welcome back to another YouTube educational short. So I thought today's episode would be quite relevant, being in prep myself, many others around me being in prep too. So I thought it'd be a good topic to come and talk about food focus and off-plan meals. Now, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I'm not food focused at all, never really have been. Food for me is very much fuel for doing what I need to do, which is quite a blessing when it comes to a prep, because I'm not one of these people that is scrolling through Instagram, looking at things that I want to eat post-show, or kind of very focused in regards to the mindset of what I'm going to eat after I finish competing. I just do what needs to be done. Now, not everyone is like that. Now, that's completely normal. Obviously, it's a natural human instinct. As soon as something gets taken away or something becomes more restricted, you're naturally going to think about it more. If I turn around and said to you, don't think about a white room and a white chair, what do you start thinking about? It's natural, it's human instinct. So the thing that I wanted to discuss today was the mindset around this food focus, the mindset around the almost obsession that some people develop through a prep. And it's almost seen as part of the process. And yes, to a degree, but is our behavior having a knock-on effect that can be quite detrimental and damaging? Now, what I mean by this is, and some of you can probably relate, in the fact that you find yourself in the evening scrolling through Instagram and all of a sudden these burgers are popping up, or you're watching your mates' stories and you're seeing the foods they're putting up, and you start salivating and you start writing a list and you start going through all these things that you want to eat post-show. Now, what we have to remember is food's not going anywhere. Like, we're not in an age where food is something that is just going to disappear. It's in abundance. There are restaurants and chains all over the place that are constantly popping up. And yes, of course, it's natural to have these desires. And yes, it's natural to have these cravings. But the constant search or constant conversation or constant food topics that will potentially be happening in gyms or with friends, are they becoming detrimental? Are they becoming quite damaging? Not only to your mindset, but also to your prep. Because for me, and this could be the typical kind of caveman bodybuilder in me, but to me, the process of the prep is to enjoy what you're doing. It's to learn about yourself. It's to develop not only physically, but mentally as well, because let's not sugarcoat it. It is very difficult what we do. It is very restrictive what we do. But there's lesson to be learned in that. There's progression to be learned in that. It's the restriction, it's the dedication, it's the monotonous task of day in, day out, of sticking to these tasks and proving to yourself, I can't get through another day without this burger or without these chocolates or sweets or whatever it is that you're craving. I don't actually need them, but I just want them. And that's perfectly normal. It's okay to want them. And I encourage balance, and I encourage that almost relaxation post-show. But what we're tending to find is that when you have this built up period of time over the weeks of your prep, where you're just fantasizing about foods and fantasizing about off-plan meals, you're building up an urge, you're building up this tension, so that when the shows are finished, what's the first thing that's on your mind? It's always food. It's always food. You know, even common questions from people who are looking on the prep. Oh, what's the first thing you're going to eat after your show? Or where are you going for a meal? You know, it should be, you know, what are the things that you're looking forward to getting back to? Like for me, for example, the thing that I miss most when I'm in prep is my enjoyment into training. You know, as you know, you get fatigued, the pumps become non-existent, you know, your tiredness, your strength starts to drop. I miss training. I don't miss food. I miss the energy and the excitement in the gym. They're the things that I can't wait to get back. The progression that happens post-show, the chase for then the next level. And this is something that we want to try and bring a little bit more prominent and not let that food focus kind of direct us in regards to what's important and what's enjoyment and what's the thing to be looking forward to post show. There's things that take much more priority post show rather than the food. And of course, yes, naturally we need to put weight on. Yes, of course, you need to have that time and space away from, say, the monotonous tasks of tracking and weighing and sticking to a food plan. And I'm not saying don't go and eat off plan. I'm saying the mindset of just constantly fantasizing and obsessing about food could be a detrimental factor, which then leads to a negative experience post-show. Because you come away from this very rigorous, very structured, very monotonous, obsessive almost behavior to then going, oh, well, I finished now. I don't have to do this anymore. I can now relax. I can have these foods. And then you go to the notes saved in your phone of the big long list that you've been writing over the weeks and weeks of prep, and you start ticking them off. And before you know it, yeah, you have gorged to an unreal level. You probably end up feeling pretty shit. You probably end up feeling really down on yourself. And you start falling down this spiral of self-control and the lack of it. And this is where the lesson of prep should ring so prominent. You can do it in prep. You can stick to that meal plan. You can stick to the monotonous tasks because you've got the goal at hand. The goal doesn't change. The objective is still progression. The objective is still bodybuilding. We don't do what some people do, one show and then quit. But if you're looking to progress as a bodybuilder, you don't just do the one show and then all of a sudden that's it. You forget all the lessons you've learned and all the rules that apply to it. You still need that balance. You still need that task and objective and focus. Otherwise, the progression you make out of bodybuilding or the mindset and detrimental place that you could potentially end up post-show is very, very real. So a lesson of warning in your prep: if you're finding that Instagram is plugging you full of food pages, unfollow it, block it, restrict it. Don't fall into that negative cycle of just flicking through food after food after food. Don't write lists of all the things that you want to eat. You know the things that you're craving. You know the things that you want to enjoy. Go and enjoy them. You don't need to write a list to remind you of all the things that you need to have. And also remember, time. This food isn't going to disappear. This food isn't just going to magically just all of a sudden become non-existent the moment you're out of prep and you don't have this short time frame or short window of where you need to eat as much as possible. You can prolong that. You can have still your weekly off-plan meal and enjoy it and say, right, well, this is the first restaurant I want to go to, which I'm going to give time back to my family, and I'm going to, have this event or this time and this space, but enjoy it and be present with family. Don't just make it all about food, and it doesn't need to be this gluttonous binge of a meal and then desserts and then donuts and then cakes and then home with the snack drawer of all these sweet treats that are built up over the weeks of prep, because you're just going to end up in a real shitty place, and it's going to massively impact your progress, but more importantly your mindset as well, because it's just going to lead this knock-on effect of guilt, of negative emotion, of negative progression. And then before you know it, you're in a place where you're just like, oh great, I'm going to have to start dieting again because I'm not happy with my appearance. And the cycle just repeats itself. So just a word of warning in regards to that food focus that naturally builds up through prep. Try to manage it. Try to manage it as if you manage your fatigue, or as if you manage your prep, or as if you manage your dedication. That is the most optimal way to run through food. Guys, thank you much as always. Much love. Stay blessed. And I will see you all soon.